Joe Walsh, a former Illinois congressman and Tea Party favorite turned radio talk show host, announced a challenge today to President Donald Trump for the Republican nomination in 2020, saying the incumbent is unfit for office and must be denied a second term. "He's nuts. He's erratic. He's cruel. He stokes bigotry. He's incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing," Mr. Walsh told ABC's This Week. The longshot portrayed himself as a legitimate alternative in party where he said many are opposed to Mr. Trump but are scared to death of saying so publicly. Joe Walsh, a former Illinois congressman and Tea Party favorite turned radio talk show host, announced a challenge today to President Donald Trump for the Republican nomination in 2020, saying the incumbent is unfit for office and must be denied a second term. His campaign slogan, "Be Brave," polls shows Mr. Trump is backed by most Republican voters, and the lone rival already in the race is former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld, the 2016 Libertarian Party vice presidential nominee who is regarded as fiscally conservative but socially liberal. Undeterred from pressing ahead with his candidacy, Mr. Walsh said, "I think this thing will catch on like wildfire." The former Trumpista added, "I'm a conservative, and I think there's a decent chance to present to Republican voters a conservative without all the baggage." Related articles. A one-word response from Mr. Trump's campaign to Mr. Walsh's entry, "Whatever." Mr. Walsh narrowly won a House seat from suburban Chicago in the 2010 Tea Party wave but lost a 2012 re-election bid and has since hosted a radio talk show. He has a history of inflammatory statements regarding Muslims and others and declared just before the 2016 election that if Mr. Trump lost, "I'm grabbing my musket," but he has since soured on Mr. Trump, criticizing the president over growth of the federal deficit and writing in a New York Times column that the president was a racial arsonist who encourages bigotry and xenophobia to rouse his base. The road ahead for any Republican primary challenger will be difficult. In recent months, Mr. Trump's allies have taken over state parties that control primary elections in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina and elsewhere. The one-word response from Mr. Trump's campaign to Mr. Walsh's entry, "Whatever." State party leaders sometimes pay lip service to the notion that they would welcome a primary challenger, as their state party rules usually require, but they are already working to ensure Mr. Trump's re-election. South Carolina Republicans have gone so far as to discuss canceling their state's GOP primary altogether if a legitimate primary challenge emerges to eliminate the threat. At the same time, polling consistently shows that Mr. Trump has the solid backing of an overwhelming majority of Republican voters. An Associated Press NORC poll conducted this month found that 78% of Republicans approve of Mr. Trump's job performance. That number has been hovering around 80% even as repeated scandals have rocked his presidency. Look, this isn't easy to do. I'm opening up my life to tweets and attacks. Everything I've said and tweeted now, Trump's going to go after, and his bullies are going to go after," Mr. Walsh said. Asked whether he was prepared for that, Mr. Walsh replied, "Yes, I'm ready for it." Copyright 9 Digital Pty Limited 2019. Let's block ads. Why?